everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, and I am here to show you another Lord of the Rings inspired watercolor step-by-step lesson focused for beginners, because I think fans want to paint too, and maybe you're new to painting. This is going to help you do it. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hi, guys.
And together we're going to show you how you can paint your very own Black Rider, Dark Rider, Nazgul, Ringwraith, creepy guy in the woods stopping you from your quest of learning how to watercolor paint. But you're not going to let him. You're going to get your paint, you're going to get your brushes, you're going to come back and meet both of us in the studio right now. We're going to show you how to paint this.
All right.
Let's get started putting our Black Rider in by going over the materials we're going to be using in today's lesson. I know John's excited about there being a Black Rider and Nazgul, but we wouldn't know that at this point. Ringwraith. We also, at this point in the story, wouldn't know that. So I've taken 140-pound paper and I've taped it down with washi tape. And over here, I put some Payne's Gray watercolor. I'm using the brand Core, but you can use whatever brand you have. I've also put aside a little bit of Phthalo Red. No, actually, I think it's Cadmium Red Medium Hue, just a red acrylic paint. And I have a little dark black acrylic paint if I need to do some hard lining there. But that's just in reserve there just in case I need it. Are you excited for this, John?
Totally.
Now, I'm going to get my quill pen. This is a number 60 Atelier Squirrel Quill. Hard to say. And I'm going to get all of my paper a little bit wet at first because I'm going to be doing the background. And I want it to be very soft and spooky. Don't you agree with soft and spooky?
I do. I really like how these brushes work. So I'm excited to see.
I'm going to load up the squirrel quill with a little bit of this Payne's Gray, and I'm going to come at the bottom here. And I'm going to just be washing this in this sort of like little layering space. When I do these big layers like this, it actually starts to create a sort of feeling or look to everything. And I'm wanting to put just a little bit of color on my paper, just in general. And then it's going to be very important that I wring out my brush with a towel. And I make sure that I kind of pull out a little of this in the middle because we want there to be sort of a smoky space. And I'm going to add just a little bit more to the bottom here of my dark color, just to start giving some of this foreground some soft landscaping. It could be mystically playing with. Does not look mystical when it blends in and it does that and it bleeds into the water above it.
It really does.
I'm just pulling this paint out. You can see I just go into the paint right here, like this, boom, 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 boom. And I come right here. I've got a lot more out than I would need. And now, once I get this in, for the next parts, I'm actually going to let this dry fully so we can do glazing. So let's let our piece dry, and we'll meet right back to do the next part. When your piece is completely dry, you can take this moment to sketch in your Black Rider, your Ringwraith, right here in the focal area. If you don't draw, don't turn away, because guess what? I have a traceable, and no, tracing is not cheating. And you can use that to transfer your Ringwraith on your painting. But if you're ready to try to draw it in, this is a great place to practice it. I'm going to use pencil, and that is okay to use with watercolor. Let's get that in. All right, so when you've got a sketch in or design in that you really like, you can start putting in the back of the forest in some of the atmospheric trees. I know trees can be like a little bit stressful when you're new to painting. So just remember to keep your lines long and flowing. We're going to be using lighter colors in the background, and the trees will pull darker as they come forward. I'm going to show you a couple of these in real detail so you can really duplicate them for yourself. And then we're going to just go at it. So you ready to tree, John?
Absolutely.
I'm going to take a number 8, just regular watercolor brush, and I'm going to mix a gray color that's just about a shade darker than the background. And I'm going to make sure that I can get this all through. I'm going to just pull these little trees in the background, I think. And they should be a little bit spooky and creepy. So if you've got kind of a crookedy tree, suddenly that crookediness, I think, is going to be in everybody's favor.
Yeah.
because we're just barely seeing these guys. And you can see I'm just pulling twigs out here and there. I'm not being too worried about it. And I'm going to go right even behind my little Ringwraith here because he's so dark in the way that we glaze in watercolor. He will absolutely negate out this tree behind him. I don't even really need to worry about that at all. And you can see it's just keeping these nice long lines coming up. That's what we're doing, just making these little spooky trees. When all of those are in, you're going to want to completely dry them so that you can paint your Ringwraith and have the edges that you want to be crisp, and the edges that you want to be wet into wet, be wet into wet. And if he's surrounded by slightly damp trees, that's going to throw that off. So let's go ahead and give this a dry and then start to put him in. Once you're sure that everything is dry, you can begin to paint in your central figure. Now try to remember in the story, as Bilbo is leaving the Shire and they first run into these creatures, it's in the woods. So I'm trying to sort of recreate that feeling of the idea of like coming up on an already sort of overwhelming forest path and running into something that would be, especially if you were a small hobbit, quite scary.
Yep.
So let's come here. Is that about right in the story? It was like right in the beginning, right? As they were setting off before the tavern. Or was it right after the tavern when they ran into them?
It's been a while. Because I can't answer, it's time for me to go rewatch.
It is. It's time to have a marathon. It's also maybe time to just reread. I think I'm getting ready to just reread it. Now, what I'm doing is I'm wetting the long, very mystical, evil, dark cloak. And this wouldn't be like, a higher level wraith. But it's still very quite spooky here. So we definitely would be afraid of this. And to get the feeling, I think, for this cloak, what I'm going to do at first is come along this front edge here and let the bleeding or blooming of the paint happen into the cloak. You know what we're doing?
Oh, yeah.
As we come down, I'm really going to load this number 8 round. This is the Voyage travel round, but you can just do a regular number 8 round to get this effect. You can see as I'm just bringing that up, and I'm going to darken it down here, quite dark, with that Payne's gray. It's not all the way black, and the reason I did that is so that I could play with the black acrylic paint against some of these edges, and especially in the space inside the hood, right? Because remember, these were those like really crazy open little hoods that when you looked into it, you were looking into a pit of blackness.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just trying to make sure that that is represented here. And I want this to feel like it could maybe come up and, get a poor little hobbit. And especially Bill the Pony, who was the character I was most concerned with the first time I was introduced to the Hobbit as a story. Yeah. I was super concerned for Bill.
I can understand.
I was just like, what's going to happen to Bill? Like for as much as Bilbo might have been conscripted into going anywhere with anybody, right?
Yeah.
I felt like Bill had just been really tricked. He probably just thought he was going to get carrot.
I think that's just generally how ponies are.
I had a pony, and I have to tell you, they do not appreciate to be taken on terrible adventures where they could be eaten by, like Mount ogres or krakens under the water. Now here I'm going to do a very similar thing that I did to an earlier horse I introduced you guys to that we did all in Payne's gray.
Mm-hmm.
And then I probably will be using this red, like maybe like in the nostrils or in the eye to just imply some of the evilness of the steed. So I have a lot of trouble believing that steeds are ever evil, so this is difficult for me.
They're just along for the ride?
I mean, it's not like horses in their natural habitat go to war. I'm just saying. So you can see I'm just trying to make it sort of very, very like spectral. This bottom leg, I'm going to definitely make a little bit darker to push that back. And there's going to be flora and fauna and things around here. We can go ahead and also kind of imply some feathering down by the hoof that you might have. Just pulling that here. And under here, I'm going to go quite dark. Maybe back at the ear a little bit. And then, you know, maybe let's take a little bit of this forward. Elongate the nose just a touch. I want to keep it quite Roman. But I'm thinking I want to take the mane and make it a little more active.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I don't know if it's pretty cool, but that's where I'm going today. Where I'm going today is right here. Pulling this out and, you know, making sure that we're shaped well. And this animal feels strong enough to carry such a dark being, is what I'm working here. And that's what we're working as. Does he feel like he could have carried maybe even a little...
I like that little beard.
A little beard that could be on a darker being. And he's a little bit drippy, I think. And I think that's important. I think I might even kind of accentuate some of that dripping. I'm going to be brave and I'm going to go ahead and splatter a little bit around here so that there's some of that. I don't know, like...
It's some powerful stuff.
Yeah, like there's an energetic space there. So you can splash yours too. A lot of the finishing work I think we'll be doing like once we get into some of the acrylic, but I just want to build in the base of him so that he feels like believable. I'll tell you, you know, not to cross sci-fi here, but the structures when you were watching the animals be built on Westworld was really interesting to see how they created that look of, you know, things that were running or powerful and beautiful yet somewhat scary creatures. It was really fascinating to me. So I'm darkening some areas around these edges to like pull them into maybe a little more focus. Under the jaw a little bit. Maybe a little more of this here. And I'm going to make sure that that is good. And then imply that there's an ear that's gone back. Now, while all this is dry, I can come back and dry brush over this another layer of this kind of gray.
That's really nice.
Yeah, just lightly implying some folds, and it's mystical fabric, but we might as well drape it well. Just, you know, for my friend Zoe, I'd be like, you know, let's drape it a little bit for all the fashion illustration that's out there. Okay, so that's looking pretty well. He's looking pretty terrifying, I feel.
Oh, yeah, I think so too.
And I'm going to get this. I'm going to get a much darker gray. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come from here and I'm going to imply more ominous, I think, branches that could be coming forward. I'll get a little crickety with them. On the tip of the brush, you can practice branches and trees. You don't have to just like, I'm just winging it here, but you're not under obligation to that. If you're feeling very insecure about your brush strokes or your trees, yeah, you know, don't feel like you can't just practice one on another piece of paper before you put it to the art that you've just really worked hard on. And get confident in it and then take it over. But don't let it be a stopping point. It's more important that you do a painting than you do a painting perfectly. The quest isn't about being perfect over the whole quest. It's about completion, right? So that's a lesson
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings has taught us about being a good artist. Finish what you start. And leave with the questing party you came in with. You're going to find yourself standing over a volcano with just one friend. It's going to be a hot mess, I'm just kidding. You definitely want to sit there and fight for the things that are important in life, right?
Yeah.
Even against great, scary evil, and even if you're not maybe as strong or as brave as the rest of your party. How influential, John, do you think that Lord of the Rings was in the creation of D&D?
Oh gosh, hugely. I think that they even talk about that in a whole bunch of dissertations between there are two creators, Guy Axe, which everybody who's highly credited, and then there's another creator, and I draw a blank on his name, but yeah, I mean, it just there's straight from Tolkien lore. Uh, a lot of the stuff was uh, expanded upon, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I just like to let John geek out and stuff like that because he used to be our DM for our group.
We used to
I'm
have
much more of a player.
today. We haven't had time to be able to do that.
Oh, creating all this artwork, right?
That's been pretty nice, though.
I do. I like it. I think this is the most fan artwork that I've had in my life in a long time. Now I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna just make some more little plants and some considered. See how I'm getting a large load of pigment?
Yeah.
I'm gonna just make sure that there's a feeling of some space here, but there's layers in this dry brushed area. See how we can do these hard edges? Where the paint is dry, it will be very sharp and firm, and it lets you create a space of being layered, you know, into the world that you're in. You can definitely, click like we can cross right over this horse. Not a horse. Not a horse. Don't give it an apple. See one of these in the woods. Do not pass go. Things have gone both awesomely right and awesomely wrong in your life. You see one of these little beasties.
That's pretty true.
Just like, oh no. It's good and bad. All right. Kind of loving all of that. It's a very good grayscale study. It's something that I feel like you could do even if you're really new to painting because there's not so much going on that you couldn't get it done. I'm going to do some finishing work with some red and some black. I want to dry it to make sure that my acrylic paint doesn't bleed into the paper because acrylic paint will initially behave like watercolor. So hold on a second. I'll dry it and we'll be right back. When you're sure everything is dry, you can go ahead and start doing the acrylic work. I'm going to use a detail brush. This is a number 1 round. It's for acrylic paint. I try not to mix up my acrylic brushes and my watercolor brushes because acrylic can be really damaging and wear out a brush over time. So I try to avoid that. I'm going to darken a little nostril here and a couple little elements of the structure of him. I may even go ahead and put on my Jordy LaForge. I wish they were Jordy LaForge vision enhancers, but just my regular human vision enhancers. I'm going to come underneath here. It's an interesting thing when you do fan art because you have to find a way to be respectful and find yourself in the product and yet still really celebrate those things that you love. And doing this and remembering, and we talked about this before, that this is a book more than a movie. And not that the movie wasn't fantastic, because the movie was totally wonderful, but that there was characters, there was a picture in your head when you read these books,
Mm-hmm.
and that you can honor that. I am darkening maybe some spots under the legs just to pull some space in them. And I'm going to go ahead and start to talk about the eye that's here, but I think some things are going to go quite red. And I will definitely improve the shadow of the ear back there. Now, inside the hood, this needs to be a very dark black. Because the idea is that you will be looking into a black hole. And I don't want to lose that, as part of what's going on here. And I'm going to take advantage of this brush and even sort of lay these little edges with these hard lines and just pull that texture in. I used to do a lot of character work for my friends that we played D&D with. And for friends, I did a lot of fan art for them. And, I kind of regret it never occurred to me to have like an art class. You know what I mean? And show them how to make their own fan art. I'm really excited to be making sort of beginner focused lessons that let people make their own fan art and get them thinking that way, and then letting them take their imagination. Because I used to do this like purely by like almost commission in a sense. You'll notice that I put out way more paint than I need, and that's just really so you can see everything. You can absolutely be much more conservative. I just feel like the eyes need to be a little bit red and maybe have like that, that like little miasma.
Yeah, I agree.
A little bit here too. Not everything, just a little bit in this space, right? And I just like that red element. And it really doesn't do much more than that. Now, in general, I am not into signing my artwork in red. I always think it's important to think about how your signature impacts the piece, but I think possibly for this one, it may be a good choice. Like it may be additive, not subtractive. And you've just got to make that decision painting by painting.
Yeah.
If you're a very important artist like Peter Mac, of course you know that and you sign how you see fit. But I don't think it's bad advice for artists to consider a signature in the overall composition, to sign, to not sign. All those things are worthy conversations for artists to have. And as artists, aren't we all on our own quest? So we're going to keep coming at this with a few more like Lord of the Rings pieces. I'm really enjoying fan art. So I think that these are things that we're going to visit often. John's really enjoying them.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
I know that these are coming up like kind of crazy because we're having a little trouble with some uploads, but we're getting them done every day, and you're going to be seeing them in little bunches or sporadically out, depending on how all that goes. But keep checking back. Make sure you follow the page. Make sure that you're, like getting those notifications so you can be ready for the next really fun project that you're going to do. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at the easel really soon.